And I think if you have the ability to show what vibe is yours and whatever you offer, the perfect people find you. But you have to first know what is your vibe.
Welcome back to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reika and I am your host. I hope you're having a good day as you're listening to this episode. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back and welcome back. If you are a new listener, welcome. Welcome to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. This podcast was started almost a year ago, January of 2024. And I wanted to interview different full-time yoga teachers all over the world who make a living from teaching yoga or yoga-related business, and wanted to ask them, how are they doing it? Is it possible to be a full-time yoga teacher? What does it take to be a full-time yoga teacher? How many classes do you have to teach? How long have you been teaching? These are the kind of questions I wanted to ask other full-time teachers when I was starting out on my full-time yoga teaching journey. So now I've been teaching yoga full-time for close to 10 years, and I wanted to ask these questions to other yoga teachers because everyone's journey is so different. Everyone's full-time yoga teacher journey is different. So I wanted to highlight their strength, their weakness, what worked well, what are some lessons they learned along the way to be where they are at. And I am not trying to promote being a full-time yoga teacher is the path for all yoga teacher. I think this is just one of the paths. And you don't have to be a full-time yoga teacher to be an amazing yoga teacher. But since I've been teaching yoga full-time for a while, I'm very curious about how other full-time yoga teachers have been doing it over the last many years. So yeah, that's kind of why I started this podcast. I sometimes do interview part-time teachers as well as teachers who used to teach who no longer teach, or teachers who transition out of full-time and now are doing something else. So I interview a full variety of yoga teachers and their stories that I think are worth sharing. Before I get started for today, I want to talk about online yoga studio. Some of you listening knows that I have my own online yoga studio. I started my online yoga studio during the pandemic in 2020, and I just celebrated the 4-year anniversary of my online yoga studio. And for the first few years of having my own online yoga studio, I didn't really have a special website for my online yoga studio. I kind of did everything on my own, sending out Zoom links, sending out emails, posting classes onto my website. And let me tell you, it was a challenge. It was a lot of work. But I wanted to make sure my online yoga studio business was sustainable before I invest money into a special website for my online yoga studio. So after a couple of years, I realized that, you know what, I think it's going to be beneficial if I actually invest in a good website that is going to be perfect for my online yoga studio. So I started doing a lot of research to see which website should I use to host my online yoga studio. I looked at Wix, I looked at Word, I looked at many other platforms, and I came to a clear conclusion that Offering Tree was the best website for my situation, which was to host my online yoga studio. Offering Tree is made for online yoga teachers, or if you even teach in person, it's actually still great for that. It's all in one website, meaning I can have my homepage there, I can have my bio, I can have my class schedules, and students can come online and register for classes, pay for classes, and automatically receive Zoom links as well as class reminder emails. These are all automatically done, so I don't have to do anything about it. And what I also love the most about Offering Tree is that my studio is donation based, and we also do sliding scale membership, and Offering Tree website can provide that. I can offer sliding scale pricing as well as donation based. Students can enter their own donation amount. I can host in-person classes with addresses that students can receive when they register. I can even upload my class recordings and sell or rent the recordings, or have those recordings available for free for my members. So it can do so much. One more thing I want to say about Offering Tree, which I think is great, is that I also run a mentorship program for yoga teachers where I do one-on-one mentorship calls with my students on Zoom. And Offering Tree also let my students book their one-on-one sessions through my website. And all I have to do on my end is to block out certain time and dates that I am not available and share when I am available. And from those time slots, students can book one-on-one with me. And that's how I book my podcast interviews as well. And Offering Tree will automatically send my interviewers reminder emails with Zoom link, and just everything is just streamlined and super easy to use. So if you are looking to offer online yoga classes or class series, or if you want to have a space where you rent or sell your recordings or courses, Offering Tree can do all of that for you. So if you are an online yoga teacher looking for a good website that can do everything that you want to do, use my discount code. You will receive 50% off the first 3 months on the monthly plan, or you can receive a 15% off your first full year on an annual plan if you use my referral link. I'm going to put the referral link on the show notes. And that's how I started using Offering Tree as well, was a referral link through my favorite podcast. So if you have any questions about Offering Tree, feel free to message me. And you can also check out my website to see what Offering Tree website will look like. My website is www.reikayoga.com. So that's it about Offering Tree for now. I want to talk about today's interview. Today, I got to interview Gwen, and Gwen is a yoga teacher who lives in a small island in Indonesia. Gwen is a business mentor and mindset coach for wellness experts and coaches. She helps them create simple and authentic online businesses that generate 100K plus a year and provide more freedom and financial independence. With years of experience building her thriving online business and helping thousands of others do so, she guides wellness experts and coaches scale their businesses. I hope you enjoy the conversation I had with Gwen, and I will speak to you on the other side. Welcome, Gwen, for coming on to join me on this full-time yoga teacher podcast. I'm very excited that I get to have this conversation with you and get to know you more. So please let the listeners know, where are you joining from today?
Hi, Reika. I'm so happy to be here and to be talking on your podcast. So today I'm in Bali, well, close to Bali, as we were just saying, like in Nusa Lembongan, which is a 7-kilometer square island that is in Indonesia, like 30 minutes by boat from Bali.
Is it, I've been to Bali, but I've never been to that island. Is it much quieter and smaller than Bali, or is it bigger, busier? How is the island like?
So tiny. So tiny, you know everyone. It's very touristy also. So a lot of people that comes to Bali comes mainly to the island to do yoga, surfing, or scuba diving. So yeah, super small community, less busy in terms of like traffic, and how Bali is just so crazy.
I have heard it's been becoming more and more popular, and it's blowing up with a lot of tourism, but also it feels like a lot of digital nomads moving there and living there as well.
100%, so many.
I would love to know how you ended up there, but maybe let's get started with, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm from France, from the south of France.
Okay. And is that where you first got introduced to yoga and started practicing yoga?
Yeah, I started when I was 18. So the first year was at uni. So 20 years ago next year.
And what made you want to become a yoga teacher?
I actually didn't I didn't want to become a teacher for a very long time, but so I am an Ashtangi, so I practice Ashtanga, and the way that we become teacher is quite different in Ashtanga. And so I was mainly assisting my own teachers. If they were going on holidays, I was teaching for them. Like we were not doing like 200-hour teacher trainings. That's not really like how it was passed on. So I just started this way, and I'm a marine archaeologist, like by study. Like I did a PhD in archaeology and did underwater archaeology was my job in France until I left over 10 years ago. And so yeah, when I became a teacher first, I didn't want to, but it just kind of like happened. And I didn't think, oh, is that going to be my job, or trying to make it my job. Was just like supporting my teachers and more looking at the practice, not so much the teaching.
I'm curious, your first yoga experience was Ashtanga yoga?
No, it wasn't. It took me a few years to actually find Ashtanga, but I just practiced and tried. I don't know why, because every single time I was going to a yoga class, I actually did not like it. But I don't know why. I had something that made me try again and again, you know? And I was doing lots of climbing. And so I was just looking for something that was chilled, but this was just too chilled for me. Like every single time I was going to a class, you know, we're just spending so long lying down on our back. Like it was not like now there are very specific styles, you know, but I feel like before we're not talking about yin yoga or like you just go to yoga. And I remember being like at the uni, and it was a horrible like carpet floor where everyone was just sweating all day in this gym space, you know. And yeah, every single class was not what I wanted until I found Ashtanga, and I was just like, yes, this is it.
I love hearing that. I also have practiced Ashtanga, very committed for about 2 years. And I was going to the Ashtanga Shala in Long Beach that I live. And, you know, my teacher was authorized teacher, got authorized in India, and really also started assisting her a little bit as well. So I really do know and have huge respect for the whole lineage of Ashtanga, as well as all the Ashtangi, the practitioners as well. There's definitely a special part in my heart for all the Ashtanga practice that I did. Definitely made me a better practitioner for sure. And I still to this day go to my Ashtanga teacher's philosophy class every Sunday. We do Yoga Sutra studies. So there's definitely a special part in my heart for Ashtanga. But what do you think made you kind of get hooked on Ashtanga compared to any other styles of yoga or lineage of yoga?
I think was that because in Ashtanga you use like a Tristana approach, you know, where you have to do ujjayi breathing, engage your bandhas, and look to a certain way, somewhere specific every single time. I find that my mind could not be distracted. At least when I was a beginner, you know, I feel that after, like, you still get distracted, and that's part of the process. But then my mind could really be focused. And that's what I really loved and needed at this time.
And have you also gone to Mysore to practice with Shraddh, or have you gone to Mysore?
Yeah, I practiced a lot in Mysore, but not with Sharath. And this is more, how to say that? This is more for me, like on all the abuse and the stuff that have been done that I just cannot be behind it. Like it's very difficult, and it's such a big subject by itself, you know?
Yeah.
And so no, I I don't support so much the guru, not hierarchy, you know, but like the way of there is a guru and everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
not a guru.
Yeah, yeah. No, I actually respect that you chose not to go back because of that. I have seen, I'm not completely in the community, but I was in the community and no longer. I do see a lot of interesting split that happened since then in the Ashtanga community of people not believing the people who spoke out, or people who choose not to practice in their shala anymore, or like I just feel I saw a big split in community. For you, it seems like the practice is so important and strong and helpful that you still want to practice the practice, but not really follow the guru.
Yeah, exactly. And I also, even if I do practice Ashtanga, and at the moment, like I practice only Ashtanga, but this has not always been the case also for me. Like I'm trained in so many other style, and I teach many other style, depending on like the context. But because I feel like we don't need, like over 20 years, I didn't need all the time the same thing, you know? And so, yeah, I don't believe in just there is one way and then you have to stay and keep it. Like you can change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. So when did you first realize that you wanted to take a 200-hour teacher training if you were on the Ashtanga path?
So maybe 2013, I would say, is the time that was like, okay, now I want to do a 200-hour. I was actually, I think at this time, I was working on the liveaboard as a cruise director. So because I was a marine archaeologist, when I started to travel and left France, I was 26. And so I just taught diving and I taught yoga. And so just at the beginning when I taught diving, that's at this time that I was like, oh, maybe I do a teacher training, but I only then did it on the side. So I didn't like go full time straight away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was your 200-hour teacher training in? What kind of?
Ashtanga.
It was Ashtanga. Okay.
Yeah.
In France?
No, in Mysore.
Oh, in Mysore. Oh, they
Yeah.
have 200-hour Ashtanga teacher training in Mysore?
They do hips. Yeah.
Okay. Because I guess if you don't go through the authorized teacher route, you can still get certified in Mysore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just with different teachers
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are not in the guru system.
Yeah. Okay, I see. And then how long was your 200-hour teacher training?
Can't remember, 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
And then after that, did you go back to France?
No, I was already in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
already worked in Indonesia.
Uh-huh.
So I came back to Indonesia and I continued teaching diving, but then I started to teach on the side, like to studios, Ashtanga.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And after that teacher training, did you feel ready to start teaching? Did you feel like it equipped you well to start teaching?
Well, yes and no. So in the question, did the TT prepare me? No, but I was already teaching, right? I was already assisting. I was already teaching. So for me, it was more, I wanted to see different aspects and I loved yoga philosophy. And in terms of anatomy, by having studied archaeology, like I know a lot in anatomy. So I felt like it was kind of like putting all of the things together.
Mm-hmm.
But the YTT itself was actually not good. It was like the level of knowledge and there was no skills building on how to actually teach. It's like go at the front and say the name of the poses and yeah, which is definitely not how I teach 200-hour teacher training now. And I think that was probably needed for me to take a first 200-hour like this, you know, to realize that this is absolutely not what I want to give to my own students now.
And I'm curious, how was your transition like from coming back and start teaching part-time to slowly becoming a full-time teacher?
Yeah. So, well, like I said, I live on a very small island. And so one local Indonesian wanted to build a yoga center and he asked everyone, hey, do you know a good yoga teacher? And everyone said Gwen. And so I didn't know him, but I think word of mouth, work so great for so many things. and for opportunities. And if you're a good teacher, like people start to notice it like around you. And so he said, okay, do you want to open a yoga center? I build it and then it's yours. You do whatever. And I was like, okay. And let me think about it for a week because I'm very loyal as a person. And I was working in a studio. And even if I was just doing like, I can't remember, 1 or 2 classes probably a week, I felt bad not just like taking an opportunity, and not telling the owner. So I went to see her and I was just like, well, I just had this opportunity, but straight away I wanted to say, but I'm not going to teach at all the same thing as what is in your studio. Like, let's really make it of thinking instead of someone else could grow something and do exactly the same. I will do something completely different. And like, this is very complementary and more like in harmony, like with other centers, And well, to be honest, she was not happy with it. But I said yes. And I was just like, I'm going to do something different anyway. And life is beautiful. Let's do it.
So that kind of led you to become more like in charge of the other new studio that was opening?
Yeah. And so then I was the only teacher, and there was nothing like, so they built it. I went 1 month in France, they built it. And then I came back. And I was like, okay, let's teach. And the thing is that to be able to have enough students in, and that was a new studio, I started to teach so much that some days I was teaching 5 classes a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And some days I was teaching only Ashtanga classes. And I had my Ashtanga practice to do, right? And that was so much.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I burned out. Very classic,
And was the Ashtanga class you were teaching, it was a led class, not a Mysore style class? Okay.
Led class.
And you were the only teacher teaching for a while at that new studio?
Yeah, until I burned out and then I hired someone. That's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 5 classes per day and just running it on your own sounds very stressful because usually studio have multiple teachers to make up a full schedule. So that must have been a lot of teaching for you. So by that time, you no longer worked other jobs. You were just doing yoga teaching.
Yeah. Then I was like, okay, that's finished. Not doing anything else. I'm just going to try to make this happen and give it like a full try. But because I had no savings, like I didn't have any money. Then that's why I needed to teach so many classes to try to have different people at different timing of the day and, catch them all kind of like attitude, which was, now I will not advise this, but I didn't know what I know now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a different owner who built the studio and that person was the owner, but they wanted you to just only teach. The owner didn't teach.
Yeah, no, the owner is not teaching. He's a local. He's still like the owner of the building, But yeah, I run everything and have my own company that runs like event and stuff there. So it's more like I'm using the space. And he's not, a yoga teacher. It just was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good thing. Like people wants to do yoga. Let's build a yoga studio.
Oh, wow. And initially it was your archaeological job that led you to Indonesia?
No, I worked in many places with my archaeological job, but no, I was a diver. And so I worked in Philippines and then, this time I was working in Philippines. Yes, I was in Philippines after working in Australia. And then I found a job in North Sulawesi. It's North Indonesia. And then they hired me there, then moved me to Bali, moved me to Lembongan as a dive instructor.
Dive instructor. What made you want to switch to yoga? Was it more fulfilling for you or was it more financially profitable for you? What made you want to make the shift from diving instructor to yoga instructor?
I think it just happened at a time where I was just like, I'm actually done with diving as my job. I think it's because since I was maybe 21, I kind of was doing that while I was studying, even if I wasn't teaching, I was diving like 4 times a day. So it was a lot of diving. And so I think at this time I was like, okay, I think I need to do something else.
Yeah. And at that point, you felt like Indonesia was your home? Did you ever feel like going back to France or moving to another country, or you kind of was settled there and you wanted to stay there?
Yeah, so I think at the time that I took this opportunity to open the place, I was not really sure yet, but before that, I traveled like everywhere that I ever wanted to go. And I think the only place I didn't go was North and South America. And so I decided actually just before building the house that I'm in. So now, before deciding this is where I'm going to live, I actually went to Americas and just like traveled around in countries that I was thinking maybe those are good countries where I could live. And decided, well, actually, no, I was saying like, no. So I just came back here and then really decided that this is where I will stay.
And then you must have been there since like before it got so popular, or was it already popular by the time you were there?
It was already like 10 years ago, it was already popular, but it just has grown so much. Like there are so many shops and stuff. Like before, we didn't have any shops at all. Like you didn't even have veggie shop, like anything, there was no supermarket on the island. Like there was just nothing. There's no, like, you couldn't buy clothes or, there was no shops like this. Like it was very basic, and now it's just so developed.
Okay, so you must seen it all, and it has evolved so much since you've been there. So tell me what happened after you said you had a burnout from teaching 5 classes a day, running the studio. So what happened after you burned out? Did you quit teaching for a while, or what happened?
Well, my priority was to practice. For me, I love teaching, but I need to practice. If I don't practice, I do not want to teach. Like, because for me, it's very important to, like, I feel I would not be authentic if I was not actually having a practice. And so what I decided is to pause and to only teach. I think I started to only teach afternoon classes. And so like this the morning, I was doing my own practice. And at this time, like my practice was like 4 hours a day. I was doing 2 hours of asana, an hour pranayama, an hour meditation, and then shavasana. And so it was a long time. I didn't have a child, I was just teaching yoga. And so then I was teaching afternoon classes. And it's at this time that I hired the other teacher, the first teacher that I hired to start teaching like all of the other classes. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I want to commit to this. Like, I want to teach yoga. Like, yoga is so good. It helps so many people. Like, I want to do this. So I started to look at all of my teachers. And of course, it was more in the Ashtanga world, but at this time, but I started to look at, teachers that are very traditional, like not mainstream, let's say, teachers that are very well known by everyone. And looking at what do they offer, like what is their business, And so I saw that none of them actually just teach drop-in classes, like none, because it's true. It is, it's exhausting. It's demanding, but also you always have to be available at the studio, meaning like you can't even move. Classes are usually at timing where you don't really want to be teaching, like at 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., And so I looked, and they all had other offerings. So either they had retreats, or they had workshops, or they had teacher trainings. And that was more like outside of the Ashtanga world that I saw the teacher trainings. And so that's exactly what I started to do. So I started to build like a workshop. So every week we had a workshop on the same day of the week that I was running. And that was going so well and really give me like enough income, but also like more people coming in and then more people coming to the classes. So it was giving like a good momentum to everything else. And then people were like, oh, you should totally run retreats. And so I started to build surf and yoga retreats here. And that was in 2016. So building like the retreats and that was working so well. I was like, this is so good. Like I just book accommodation for people. And then they do the surfing, we talk, we do yoga, like super nice. And then during those retreats, people were like, oh, I would just love to do a teacher training and I want to teach like you, do a teacher training. And so then I created my first 200 hour that I then build up with the other teacher that I hired. And I just asked her, do you think people want that we do a teacher training? I was like, can we do a teacher training? And she was like, yeah, we can today do a teacher training. And that was it. So that's exactly how then we started running 200 hour, and then along the line, we did 300 hour, and so it's really by diversifying my offers, and that's why this is exactly what I taught yoga teachers also for so many years now to do, in person or online, because I wasn't exhausted doing just one thing that gives quite low income, and actually could have different projects, all like for the same people, still for my yoga students, but just have different ways of practicing with me. And yeah, that really changed everything for me.
Yeah, that sounds all amazing. I have a lot of questions about that. But because you were living on this small island, was most of your students tourists, expats, or local? Is it hard to have same students, consistent students, if it's mostly tourist students that's coming and going? Or yeah, I'm curious about your student base there.
Yeah, I would say 99% tourist. Yeah. So there's no local practicing. There are some expats that live here that practice. Mainly they are also yoga teachers, to be honest. But there are some people that also own, like, let's say, restaurant and stuff that come and practice. But it's the majority is only tourism.
Mm-hmm. And do you find it hard to have students who's constantly coming and going, especially if you want to run a workshop or retreat? Or maybe I can also see that being such a big advantage too, because you're meeting so many new students from all over the world that you can, stay connected with.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually amazing because I could be running, let's say, a backbend workshop this week, and in 3 weeks run it again, because it's not going to be the same people,
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel it's anything is all about your perception. Like, you can see things are being like an advantage and life working for you, or you can just see all of the disadvantage, the inconvenience, and all of the negative side, and that things are just wrong.
Mm-hmm. And with your 200 hour, how long is your 200 hour teacher training, and how were you promoting it, and how were you finding students to come take your 200 hours?
So the 200 hour is 3 weeks, so 21 days. And students find us from Google mainly, and word of mouth. So from our website, word of mouth, that's kind of it. I think like all our bookings are direct bookings, so people booking straight with us. They either came to our yoga class maybe years ago, and they were like, they just absolutely love the class, they love the space, and they want to do a teacher training, and they're like, I need to go back there. Their teachers back home did their teacher training with us. It really depends, but we take a small group, like it's limited to 16 students. Of course, we could take more because we are always fully booked, but I feel like I love a small group and really to get to know everyone in the training. So yeah, I think that is also why people find us, is because there are people that also want a small intimate group. They want a TTC that is not like a social media TTC. And I'm saying this because sometimes I look at 200-hour training and I feel this is so good for them also, but I'm just saying that it's such a different vibe, and each studio, each teacher training, each retreat is such a different vibe. And I think if you have the ability to show what vibe is yours and whatever you offer, the perfect people find you. But you have to first know what is your vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is the vibe of your 200 hours and the students you're trying to attract?
They're definitely not social media people. And yeah, and I think we also do probably like 2 posts a week or something on social media. We're not, our students are not like taking pictures during their practice, or filming each other. Or I feel like this is not the vibe. We're more like a traditional place. And the teachers are all very knowledgeable. And I feel that all our testimonials are, oh my God, these are the most knowledgeable teachers I've ever seen. And I didn't know this when I signed up, but this was like so much more than I expected. And I feel that just people looking also at the testimonial can see that. So yeah, it's just a lot of knowledge, but also a lot of discipline, but in a relaxed way. Just everyone that comes is here like to learn. It's not like a retreat.
Yeah, I like that. And what style are you teaching in a 200 hour?
So it is a multi-style. We call it yin and yang because we do both yin and yang styles, but it's not like a yin yang style asana. But we do Ashtanga and yin the first week. So like, let's say last week was the first week of the 200 hour. So we teach Ashtanga class in the morning, and then they have yin in the afternoon. But all of the asana lab that are yang style are any style. So we don't teach like the Ashtanga sequence only asana. So we do Ashtanga and yin. And then the second week we do Vinyasa and restorative. And then the third week they teach. And they teach either they choose what they can teach, like they choose to style and they can teach that.
I love that. And how long are the days? And do they get a weekend off or a day off, or do they go 21 days straight?
The day off is on Sunday, so they do have a day off per week. And the days are from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Nice.
With like breakfast break and lunch break.
Yeah. And the place, the studio that you're teaching the 200, is that also the place they stay, or do they stay separately? And is food and board, everything included?
It depends. We have a restaurant on site. We have now, since when we started, we actually had the restaurant and then the shala. And now with the teacher training money and stuff, like the entire local family built bungalows. We have 2 swimming pools. We have 2 other shalas. It's like the place has been expanding so much. And so yeah, everything is on site, but some people prefer to stay outside. So it depends.
And how many of those 200 hours do you run per year?
Typically 5 and a 300 hour.
Okay. And are you teaching all of them?
I teach on all of them. Yeah.
Okay. But then you get to share the load of teaching with other teachers.
Yeah. I'm the lead teacher for all of them. But then I have 2 other teachers in the 200 and in the 300 that I trained also, and that also assisted and now took over.
Wonderful. And so it sounded like you were going from teaching 5 classes a day and having a burnout, starting to teach teacher trainings and workshop kind of allowed you to teach less group classes, but still increase your income by having different streams of income related to yoga. And I guess from there, I'm sure the pandemic has happened somewhere between. Did it affect you in your business on the island? And how was your full-time yoga teaching life before the pandemic, and what happened during? And then how has it shifted or changed now that we're after the pandemic?
Yeah, so much has changed, right? Like for everyone. And once again, like it's really for me, it was looking at how can I see benefits in what is happening, and not just be like, my life is over, nothing's happening. And so when the pandemic happened, everyone left the island. There was no more tourists. No one had a job. And it was everyone, even that worked on the island as an expat, left because most of them, didn't have a place to stay and stuff. And I actually built the house I'm in now. I built this house in 2017 just from the money of teaching yoga. And this is the year that I expanded all of my offers. Like when I say 2016, like in a year and a half of saving all of my money that I was making, I did build this amazing house. And yeah, that was amazing, which meant that when it was COVID, I had a house. Like I didn't have to go anywhere. I wasn't living like in a guest house or in a homestay. So this was a big thing because also my husband lost his job and my son was exactly just 1 year old when the pandemic started. And so, yeah, so that was great financially. But then I was like, how are we going to live now? And so what I did is then that I started to go online right away and we were supposed to have, I think I had a 20-hour restorative course that I was supposed to do. We had a 200-hour coming like in April, May, and that was in March that it started here, 2019. And so I did put the restorative course online. Then we put a yin course online. And then we started to build all of the module of the 200-hour, like one by one, like the Ashtanga, the philosophy, the anatomy, and so on. And we started to sell them as a one-off course. And then when the 200-hour was finished, then we also sold the 200-hour like this. And that was insane because we actually made like so much sales selling it. And we had no idea of like social media marketing, just like a little bit, we were using, but we're not really onto social media. And well, we were not. And so, yeah, we just went online during the pandemic, created those courses. And maybe 6 months after creating those courses, because I trained so many yoga teachers over the years, I had so many being like, Gwen, how I need to do the same. Like, how can I go online? How can I create my course? And before COVID happened, I was actually already mentoring yoga teachers after the 200-hour on how to find a job, how to build your own business. And so doing business coaching for them. And now it was with the online. And so then I just started to help them build the same thing online. I was like, this is how you do it. This is how you create your course. This is how you record it. This is how you sell it. This is how you do the marketing. And they were all like, wow, like I've done maybe other courses before. I just don't like the other business coach because they want me to do sales calls or they want me to do ads or to do like, I don't know, stuff that they didn't want to do as a yoga teacher that is also shy on social media. And the way that we are is not really like sales, And so it was difficult for a lot of the teachers that I knew. And that's how I started my business coaching on top of having the yoga business.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. How you said you started making your courses online, and then one by one you started making courses, and then you were able to combine it all to offer online 200-hour, which sounds amazing. And it sounds like you were surprised by how many you were selling them, like how many people were interested in purchasing and going through your online training. So were you just kind of reaching out to or letting the people know on your newsletters and website and social media about this 200 hours? Is that how it spread, or where else, or how else do you think people were finding out about your online 200 hours?
Yeah, so at the beginning first, we actually didn't want to certify people 200-hour online. Yeah, because I was thinking that, to be a yoga teacher, you have to actually learn, and online, it's just not the same. Let's be very, very clear with that. I do not think that it is enough to teach for most people. Yeah, maybe like depending on your practice, how you are, like it's going to depend. But for most people, it's not going to be enough to learn the skills of teaching, even with amazing online content. You actually need to see people, be with them, look at them. And so the idea was not to have the 200-hour completely, but only for the people that missed the date. And while we wait for the country to reopen and for people to come, they could watch those stuff, and then they will still come to the training that they paid before, because we had so many, like the entire year was booked out with trainings. So this was mainly the idea. And we were just selling one module at a time. So it was more like we sell the modules, but we don't really sell the 200-hour. And then we just had so many people requesting it. And we're like, you know what? We are going to do it. But for us to go through this and that it feels good with our values, we first did it as a hybrid. So they had to come and do like a 10 days with us after.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's fully online, the 200 hour, but they have a certificate that say that it was done 100% online, which for me was important. And I know it might not be important for everyone, but I think it's, that was important for me. And so, we use our email list, the website, and then we started to build it more and have more marketing, as well as myself. Also, I learned more on how to sell digital products, which was very helpful for me to learn that, because then all our courses, starting to sell very well. And now we still make thousands of dollars every single month from courses we created during COVID that we don't do anything about because they're all self-paced.
Mm-hmm. And is your 200, so you're still selling the 200 hour that's completely online, and you also are still offering the fully in-person 200 hours? Or do you also offer hybrid where people finish half online and they have to come in person for the second half?
We did offer hybrid maybe 2021 and maybe 2022. And then after that, no, we didn't do any last year, not this year, because now it just didn't work very well. Like people, they were just doing full online or full in person. So we just have both. The majority of people that take the 200 hour online are already yoga teachers, actually. Mm-hmm. And they already did one, and it was just not enough. They want more. They want more content and help.
Mm-hmm. And that is when you kind of started teaching or coaching or mentoring yoga teachers on business side. And that kind of started during the pandemic for you, because you had so many teachers you trained that were kind of reaching out to you for help.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's when your business journey kind of started, when you started putting more time into business or coaching business. So now, what does your average week of being a full-time yoga teacher look like? How much like group classes do you teach versus how much how much time goes into your teacher training and your business coaching, and you have different streams of income? So how does your average week look like?
So, well, now I have, let's say, 5 or 6 teacher training per year. So the weeks are quite a bit different if I'm in a YTT or if I'm not in a YTT. For me now, the main thing that I do 99% of my time is my online coaching business. So for coaches and for wellness experts to help them build their online business. So this is my entire time. I teach 1 to 3 classes a week just because I absolutely love teaching it. And that's also what I love, is that I don't do it for the money. So I just do it because I just love teaching. And so at the moment in the studio, I have 6 other teachers. So I only teach 1 class so everyone can actually have to, because they want to make the money with the classes, which is completely understandable. So there's weeks right now this month, like I teach 1 per week. I teach 1 Ashtanga class every Thursday morning. That's how my schedule is set up. But sometimes it's 3, depending on who's here and what I do. And then if I have a teacher training, like now, I do work a few hours a day for it. But because we are 3, we split the schedule anyway together. So my time is focused, on my online business. My son is now 5 years old, and he goes to local school, but local school is until 10 a.m. So it just has a couple of hours of school. The rest of the time is with me. I work only 4 days a week. And so this is also why I want to help more yoga teachers, more wellness experts do the same, because this is not something I thought was actually possible before to work. I work 4 days a week. I make multi-6-figure per year. I'm with my son. I can travel. I'm building a second house now on the island with ocean view that I'm so excited about. Like, I just mean that there is so much that is actually available to us while staying 100% authentic to ourselves. Like, we don't have to like do stuff that we don't want, or jump on social media, or be on TikTok or whatever, I think it's so important to know that if you want, as a yoga teacher right now, to have only a career where you're 100% online, you can. if you want a career where you're 100% in person, you don't want to do anything online. Don't do anything online. But then still diversify your offers and be very clear on how much money you want to make, and then see what you need to offer for that, and train yourself to be able to offer those stuff, and refine your skills. If you want a hybrid business, in person and online, you can do that. But yeah, now it's just there's so much possibility to have a business that you absolutely love, and this is just available. 2024 is honestly amazing. Like 10 years ago, we couldn't do all of this stuff.
So true. I do feel like I know the pandemic was a very challenging time for many people, but speaking to and interviewing many yoga teachers, I think a pandemic, for some yoga teacher, pandemic really it benefited their business so much for some teachers who really pivoted online. Like some teachers are making way more than they ever did in person when they now have online offerings, and they have a lot more freedom to choose their hours and make your own schedule and teach what they feel like they love to teach. So I do love seeing that and hearing those kind of journeys and stories. So I love hearing that you're also now helping a lot of yoga teachers also succeed in their teaching business. And for me, listening to some of your podcasts, I think something that I think you are so amazing at is great boundaries, or maybe non-negotiables as teachers, because I think it's so easy for teachers, me included. I think yoga teachers have a hard time making boundaries. So sometimes we just say yes to too many things, and your schedule gets filled up, or you feel like you have to say yes, or there's so much. Maybe private clients want to work with you on Sunday, but you don't want to work on Sunday. All these things, and I think you had a really good podcast where you were explaining your non-negotiables, and I thought that was so amazing. So maybe share with the listeners, what is your non-negotiables as a full-time yoga teacher, and any tips for teachers how they can also develop a healthy boundary with work and personal life.
So yeah, I feel that when we were talking about this time where I burned out, I didn't have a non-negotiable. And it's really this time that reminded me my first non-negotiable is my practice. And still to this day, I practice 6 days a week. Of course, it looks differently. Sometimes I say that people are like, oh my God, I don't have the time. And I'm like, well, me too, but it doesn't mean that I practice 90 minutes a day. Sometimes I practice 20 minutes. Sometimes I just do yin yoga. Sometimes, just like you have to also, if you want to be a lifelong practitioner, your practice needs to look differently depending on what you're going through. But yeah, this is such a non-negotiable for me, and which made me change then what I teach, because if I need to practice, I have a certain gap in my day where I like to practice. It's true that sometimes in my life it happened to me, and I would have not believed that years ago, that my practice was actually after lunchtime. Like this was the only time I had. And this was the time I was practicing, but it's to say that it was so non-negotiable. But now working through those non-negotiable, like I added other stuff, like for my well-being, let's say have a massage every week, as a yoga teacher also, like we use our body so much to demonstrate, to move around, and it's so important to also take care of it. So for me, like that's also one of my non-negotiable. And I've built so many other one. And if you listen to the podcast, you probably heard that I put them in category, like some in terms of my time, some in terms of pleasure, like what you want to do, like as hobbies, like I go free diving, for example, whenever I want. Like I absolutely love free diving. I have some in terms of money. Like for me, I realized that to be safe and feel safe, I need to see a specific amount of money on my account. And so this amount of money has to stay on my account, and then I don't have to think about it. So really having those non-negotiable of kind of like living by and clear boundaries is so important, like to me. And I feel that because I'm so clear with them myself, it's easy to be clear with other people about what is my boundary. And I think one thing that when you start applying those boundaries in your life and be like, this is it, like I'm doing this, people are actually going to be inspired by it. People are just like, oh my God, me too. Me too, I want to say no. Me too, I want to have a daily practice. Me too, I want to do this, And at the beginning, I felt bad being like, I'm sorry, I actually just want to teach this times and I don't want to do this. And actually everyone was like, yeah, that makes so much sense, And someone else was like, actually, for me, it's the opposite. I just want the morning stuff. Give me the morning times, And you will see that the more you express yourself clearly on what you want, but you have to first work yourself on what it is. But then people are not like offended or think of you of whatever, It's this is just your life. You want to live it this way, then you do it. Don't ask anyone about it. This is not their life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important because it's so easy for us teachers to get lost in trying to say yes to everything, and it leads to burnout, So I love that you have that non-negotiables, and I think it really helps with kind of really managing energy as a yoga teacher. Another question is, I know you said by the time pandemic hit, you had a son who was turning 1 years old. So how did your maybe business or teaching life shift once you had your son, from before without, when you didn't have any children, to when you had a son? How did your business shift or your teaching shift? Did you have to teach less classes, or was it a slower period of life and then kind of started back up strong? Or how did that transition work for you?
Well, actually, the transition was so good because I feel like I prepared this before. Not that I knew I wanted to, like, let's say in 2016, when I was planning all of these new offers, and I wasn't thinking it's going to be good for me because later I want to be pregnant. I was not even with my husband at this time yet. So yeah, I was not planning for it. And so I really built this life for me and my well-being. But then when he arrived, it was not a big change. I was still teaching YTT when I was 8 months pregnant, uh, but I already hired someone to take over. So we were both teaching at the same time for my portion, and I also had another teacher anyway in. And so the first 6 months of postpartum after giving birth, I only had one teacher training that was planned. And so she took over this one. So I was completely off. I really did not work for 3 months at all. And then I did a little bit of teaching, maybe like one class a week. And yeah, just for, an hour and a half where I was not at home. The studio is literally 30 meters from my house. So, so it's very close, which makes it easy. And then I think I did the first teacher training 6 months after. So yeah, I felt like it was very much the same. This period of my life was so quiet. Like especially looking at it now, where I'm running the same business as before, but I have a complete new business on top of it. So doing kind of like 3 businesses between the in-person one, the online with all of the yoga courses that are still selling, and then my own. I feel it looks like I was not doing anything with my day.
I'm happy to hear that transition that you just explained. Doesn't sound as intimidating for me to hear. I loved speaking to teachers who have had children and can kind of talk about the transition and the different journey and phases that it took to go through motherhood and then still be teaching and having your own business. So thank you for sharing that. So I know you do a lot of amazing coaching to yoga teachers and other wellness practitioners. What kind of advice would you give to yoga teachers? I feel like what I see a lot, especially living in Los Angeles, what I see a lot and what I have also gone through myself as being a full-time yoga teacher here is we're just working, mostly studio classes or group classes. And we feel like we're in this hamster wheels of just going, going, going. When you only have group classes as a source of income, there's a ceiling to how much you can make because there's only a set number of hours a day that you can work. And it comes a time that you have to expand. Like you said, you need to have diversified the income stream so that you can come off, stop running in the hamster wheel of just teaching group classes over and over again. So any advices for teachers who's listening to this, who are maybe in that path of just teaching so many group classes and maybe coming close to burnout and thinking like, how is it possible for me to keep continuing this to be a full-time yoga teacher? So what kind of advice would you give it to teachers like that?
I think like you said, it's really about first being clear on actually what do you want? Because you can't just be like, okay, I want things to be different, but how does different look like? And will you still be teaching? Do you want to teach that many classes? Like, what is the ideal scenario for you? And really think about it being like, okay, my ideal life look like this. It doesn't mean like no one is going to say, okay, my ideal life is I work 1 hour a day, the rest I'm at the spa, but being like, yeah, realistic, but also beyond realistic, feel like what feels expensive for you, what feels like, oh my God, this is my life. And be like, I'm teaching that number of classes, like my classes are fully booked. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Really like having a clear picture of this. Does this include online? Does it not include online? And really think about what you want. If you don't know if it includes online or not, I will say, ask yourself, what will online give to you? Like, for example, for myself, I want that if tomorrow I don't know, I need to move back to France to take care of my parents or something, I can do it tomorrow. I can take my entire family. I can pay for everything for everyone. I'm here. It's solid. And for me, that was super important. That's why even after the pandemic, I haven't given up on my online business because I absolutely love the freedom that it gives me. I'm here behind my computer. Yeah, I find that amazing. And I'm not a social media person. Like, I don't have any personal account. Like, I only use it for business. It's just for work. I don't scroll on social media. And so I don't feel you need to love to be online yourself, a consumer, to actually have an online business. But you have to know what you want. And once you know what you want, how much money you want to make, and then you start building the offers that needs to happen then for you. You will not know how to set up those offers by yourself if you just look at YouTube. The same that you didn't become a yoga teacher by looking at YouTube videos of other yoga teachers teaching. Yeah. So if you look at other people building a business, you're not going to learn how to build your business. And that's something that I want to be very clear, because at the beginning, you will want to do all of this by yourself. And honestly, do it. If you feel like, I just want to try by myself, then just do it. Try by yourself. And then start to see what doesn't work, what is working for you, what is easy, what is hard. And then you just have to take courses. Like, you take a 200-hour course, and then you take a 20-hour hands-on assist. And, you have taken different courses for different skills. Then it's going to be the same if you want to build your business online or in person. You want to, for any type of offers, because marketing and sales are definitely the two things that we all need if we want to run a business. And I feel these are the two things that we are the most reluctant to learn at the beginning, because we just wish that, people will just find me and understand me without me having to say anything. And unfortunately, cannot work this way. So I will say, definitely, as a summarize, be clear on what you want and how does this perfect picture look like for you. Then see what kind of offers you will be doing, how many, what's the price, the money side. Try to see either spending time learning by yourself and know that this is going to obviously be slower, but you can also try this way. Or you can just go straight into, going into courses and learning the skills that you will need to build those offers.
Thank you for sharing that. And did you learn it yourself and go the slower way, or did you have a teacher or coaches that you had to learn the skills that you have now to have your online business?
So for the online business at the beginning, I started a bit by myself, and I'm happy I did it, just because I feel like I have a mentality of like this, like I need it. But for me, trying by myself was 2 months. Yeah. I did a course, I recorded, I tried to sell it. I'm like, okay, and then what? And then it doesn't sell anymore. Like once the people that you know have bought it, how do other people find it? How do other people buy it, you know? And it's at this time that I hired my first business coach that taught me like all of the things at the beginning that I needed to know to start more. And then I did since then, like, I can't even tell you the number of courses, masterminds, private coaching that I had, because your business always evolve. And the more money you make, like, of course, it's easier to reinvest in your business and learn those stuff just to make your life easier. Like for me now, I don't want to spend time Googling stuff. Or like to have a strategy of reviewing. Like I just talk to someone that actually know what they're talking about, and it's a lot easier. So I did a little bit of the South way, but not long.
And in terms of your full-time teaching career, and I know you wear different hats as a yoga teacher and also business coach and mentors and teacher trainers, all the different things that you do. What aspects of being a full-time yoga teacher do you love the most, and what do you find it most challenging?
I think what I love the most is having students like having their aha moment, on stuff that are so random. Like it can be stuff that you say all of the time, or maybe you've said something you don't even remember saying it, and people were like, "Oh my God, like this class, like this, I understand that this thing, or I'm able to do this thing, or for my personal life, like it just made me reflect on this, and now I know what to do." Or this is really like the part that I absolutely love from teaching yoga. And even in teacher trainings, like any type of yoga practices or container. And the most challenging, I feel right now that I do not have challenges from teaching, but because I have all of the skills that I need as a teacher, but I have studied yoga for more than a decade with like so many amazing yoga teachers. And so I feel that in terms of skills, like I don't have challenges. And because I don't count on just yoga to give me my income, I actually don't have this relationship with my teaching being, I need more people in my class, or I need this from it, I feel I can just do it as service. I don't need anything from it. I just love it.
I like hearing that, because I think when we teach so many classes, as a lot of yoga teachers do, to make enough money to live, if they're in that hamster wheels of just teaching, then we kind of start losing the passion of it, because we're tired of teaching, let's say 20, 30 classes a week. But when you are teaching less number, but you can give it your all, your 100%, your passion and love to that teaching, those fewer classes a week, I feel like that's beautiful.
Of course. And I feel like it's not even your students that see the difference, because depending on your personality, and I see it on so many teachers, like they teach 15 classes a week, but the people are just like, "Oh my God, your classes are amazing." So I don't think that it changes so much the value sometimes, but you as a teacher, what you get from teaching is completely different. And the serenity and the peace that you can have from it, knowing that you don't have to run right now. You're not missing out on going with your friends because of this class being at this time, or it's a lot more, nourishing.
Yeah, for sure. And since you've been in the yoga world for quite some time, and I feel like you've been in, maybe what you're been in and seeing in the yoga world could be different than mine, since I've been in the West Coast of the United States for a while. But I'm curious to know, how have you seen the yoga world and culture evolve since when you first became part of it? And what changes do you see that you love and appreciate? And what are some changes you have seen that you're not sure about, or maybe that's disheartening?
So what I feel first, that how yoga is taught now in the West compared to, let's say, in India is completely different. And I think it's difficult sometimes to have conversation around acculturation, and is it something that is being taken away? I just feel that now it is a practice that has completely evolved. And the last 20 years, the practice has changed so much. And when I say I studied for a decade, just remember, actually, it was 2 decades, Gwen. You are not that young. And it's just like really, it has changed so much, but it's beautiful. You know, I feel that now people are leaning more into their uniqueness as teachers than before. You were teaching like you have been taught. And yeah, now so many practices are not traditional anymore. You go to a power yoga class, they make you do drills and they make you do like pulses and for your glute work, and you know. But if people are going to have benefits from this practice, I find it amazing. And by someone, let's say, going to a power yoga class like this, if it was not traditional, and for some people, they might actually love it so much that they're going to maybe do a yoga retreat, maybe with this traditional teacher, and they're going to discover philosophy, pranayama, they're going to discover different practices that are amazing for them. But for them, the entry point of discovering it was this. They would have never maybe started with the traditional one. And so I feel instead of like pointing fingers and being like, this is right, this is wrong, what about we just accept that it is how it is? And if people are not being harmed, you know, and there is no harm, no, like people are not being abused, like it's a practice, even if it looks different in some studios, in some countries, like what about we let people do what they want to do? And not just put people in a box. And yeah, if a yoga teacher wants to teach this way, amazing. Just let this teacher be themselves. And if it's so horrible, no one is going to go to their classes. But why do we have to spend energy judging how other people are teaching if they're not harming the student? If people actually feel so good after, I don't see what's the problem with them.
Thank you. I love that answer. And what does success mean to you as a yoga teacher?
I think it means to be happy and to have joy teaching, and to feel that you have the space for you to remember what is yoga for you and how it shows up in your life, and why do you want to share this the most, you know. And being, for me, successful as a yoga teacher is not about like how much money you're making. Honestly, who cares? It is more about how does this fit with your life? Are you able to show up as a yoga teacher also in your life, you know, without people knowing that you are a yoga teacher? How do you show up? Because it's not just at the studio you are kind and cute and you know, nice with people, but also how does this affect your life? And I feel for some yoga teachers, being successful is going to be better for them to have another job or to have another thing, you know, because they're going to feel so much more themselves than if they had to maybe go into a yoga teacher version that is not who they want to be. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to be, to reevaluate our identity and to be like what it is. Yeah, that is a successful yoga teacher full time. Like for me, it doesn't mean that you teach a certain number of classes, that your classes are full of students. Like you can be a successful teacher and have 5 students in your class and feel successful. So yeah, for me, it has nothing to do with numbers, but it's more like a feeling of, oh my God, people are they're just so happy. You know, they're here, they come to class and they actually come back. Like it's amazing that they're really enjoying this practice. It's doing good for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love what you said. It's not about the numbers. And it's, you know, seeing your students enjoy it and you yourself as a teacher also enjoying while you're doing it, you know. So I love that. And I guess the last question I have is, where do you see your yoga career or your journey going in the future? Do you have any direction that you're taking your teaching or your career business towards? or if there's any goal or any upcoming, I don't know, some kind of project that you're trying to manifest.
I was actually thinking about this just like a couple of days ago of like, what is this going to be for me, yoga, soon? Because as we talked about just before the podcast, my business actually switched from serving only yoga teachers to, because I've actually served so many also coaches and wellness experts that are not yoga teachers or not just yoga teachers, that I wanted to switch into this. But yeah, my entire career has been about helping yoga teachers learn how to teach, learn how to practice, grow their business. And I just feel that for me, this is a part of my identity. But my identity, like yours, like everyone, we do evolve with time. And it's good to really take our yoga practices and learn how to let go of what is no longer like us, at this time, because we do evolve. Our skin shed every day, like it is normal to evolve and to be okay with this and be seen differently. Yeah. And so I was asking myself, will I still be teaching yoga? Will I still be leading teacher trainings? And because financially I could not, yeah. So why am I having all of those businesses? And right now it is still my identity. Like I'm not planning on not teaching yoga. I'm not planning on not teaching the teacher trainings. And even one of my colleagues asked me like, do you want us to take more on and you stop teaching the teacher trainings, or do you still want it? Like it's your wish. I'm like, yeah, I just love it. It's hard for me to actually give them hours because I just wish I could teach the entire thing because I absolutely love being with my students and teach them how to teach and love to teach. So yeah, for now, it's still part of my identity. So yes, but I don't know in 10 years, maybe it's going to be different. Or maybe I will just teach yoga and stop all the other stuff. Who knows?
I love that. I love that you said you love teaching so much. And I think we should be continuing to do what brings us joy and what we love. And like you said, it could change, right? We don't have to just say this is it and this is forever thing, like being open to it changing in the future. But for now, just this is what I love doing. So I'm going to continue doing that. It brings me joy. So thank you for sharing that. This has been such a great conversation, and you gave such an amazing tips and advices, and just like listening to your journey has been so amazing to hear. And what, from the little that I know about you, what I really love from this conversation and also listening to some of your podcasts is that what a healthy boundaries and non-negotiables that you have as a yoga teacher. I think that's something I really look up to. And I think you set an amazing example to that. So thank you for doing that, because I think as a yoga teacher, that can be challenging sometimes. And I want to also ask, how can listeners find you or reach out to you? What are some offerings you have, or your upcoming retreats or your teacher training? Anything you want to share, please share with the listeners.
Yeah. So in terms of yoga, because I think the majority of people listening are already yoga teachers. So I do have a yearly 300-hour, and we actually learn about business, of course, on top of all of the other stuff. And the course is amazing. It's already half full or more than half full. So definitely, if you want to check that, you can go on yogablisslambangan.com, and I can give you also, Reika, the link. That's my yoga school. And for all of the business stuff, I do business coaching for yoga teachers or wellness expert and coaches. And this, you can see everything on my website, businesswithgwen.com. So very simple. And I have a mastermind starting soon, actually, which I think when this is coming out, it's going to be starting to enroll. And this is perfect for the person that is already making like $1,000 or $2,000 a month from their online offer. So they made like some sales, but you want to scale to more and make like 100K with a good suite of offer that can be hybrid in person and online, but you want to scale your business. And to scale a business, it needs to already be a bit in place. So that's not going to be for a beginner.
Thank you. And your business coaching, do you only do one-on-one, or do you also offer like a small group offering?
I have group programs, pre-recorded programs, mastermind, one-on-one,
Mhm.
the full thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely link all of that on the show notes. Thank you so much, Gwen, for sharing everything that you shared today. And I feel like you just have so much lived experiences of what you learn in your journey, and so much great things to share, and tips and advices. So I really appreciate it. And I think the listeners for sure will enjoy this conversation.
Thanks, Reika.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Gwen. I think it's so amazing. She built the dream life for herself. She owns and built a house on that beautiful island in Indonesia. She teaches 5 teacher trainings a year. I think she says she teaches a few group classes a week, and she mentors yoga teachers. And I just love that she loves what she does, and her business is thriving, and she is a successful business owner from doing what she loves. And I also have a huge respect for her to be able to find a healthy work-life balance where she works 4 days a week. She still have time to take care of her son and be with her family. She also makes sure she creates time for her own practice every day, or 6 days a week. I think that is so amazing, and something I really look up to in a yoga teacher. So I hope you also enjoyed Gwen share her journey. And that is it from me for now. Thank you for listening always, and I will speak to you next week. Have a good day.